Good evening. Good evening. I want to first and foremost, I just want to thank you all for coming out tonight. My purpose as a representative for the district is not to advocate for or against a bond, which was called by the Board of Trustees last month. Their decision was based on the results and feedback received from a facility study that we had done in the spring. We have two experts with us tonight, Mr. Bowie Franks of Gallagher and Company, who is our program manager, and Mr. Joey Dawson, who is our financial advisor of Live Oak Finance. They will be happy to answer any questions that you have regarding bond. The district has been very diligent in maintaining our current aging buildings. However, if we're going to give our children the best education possible and equip our teachers with the tools that they need every day, there are upgrades and renovations that need to be done. We want you all to have all the information and facts that you need to make an informed decision when it comes time for you to vote. And the main thing is we are concerned about the future of our children in Dangerfield, Lone Star, and Payson. We want to make sure that when our children leave here, they're prepared to go anywhere, to any college, any university, and do well. So, having said that, I want to just kind of share a few of the great things that are happening here at Dangerfield Lone Star ISD. First of all, we've had great participation in our UIL events, especially math and chess. In our chess events, we usually sweep the whole contest. I think this year every team, with the exception of one grade level, won first place. And then the other places, first, second, and third, we also claimed those places as well. Our math team has advanced to regionals. They had their competition last week, and we're very proud of them, not only at the high school, but also at the junior high. This was our first year to present Teacher Incentive Allotment Awards, TIA. That is an incentive for our teachers whose students show great growth and the teachers who had great observations. We had a total of 20 teachers who were approved and designated, and we're very proud of that because we are right now the only school in Morris County that does that. Another thing that we're doing is we're implementing high quality instructional materials in K through 5, and you've heard the term Bluebonnet. We are doing that because we're trying to make sure that our Tier 1 instruction is strong and that it supports the needs of our students. And we're trying to also install good systems so that our teachers will have a good foundation as to what they need to be doing. And just a few, I think it was last week, our HOSA, which is our Health Occupation Department, they were in a competition, and one of their students is advancing to nationals in personal care. So we're just always excited when our kids do well. And we have to brag about our 100% graduation rates, which we have had for many, many years. And also we have a high CCMR rate. Our CTE program is growing. We've joined forces with NECA. It's the Northeast Texas Career Alliance. We are joined with Harts Bluff, Pewitt, Chapel Hill, and there's 5 of us in Hugh Springs. And this is just to provide and bring more CTE opportunities to our students. And the good thing about it is, sometimes when you're from Dangerfield, you only know Dangerfield students. But this is a way of getting all students connected with other students in the area who are all focused on the same thing. And our FFA program is awesome. They are busy and going all the time. They've been very successful in a wide range of competitions in which they participate. So we're very excited about the things that we have going on, and this is just a tip of the iceberg I couldn't think of everything, or we'd be here all night. So now, I just wanted to show you a few pictures. Up there you have a picture of our band, which our band is, we have new band directors this year, and our band is rebuilding and growing, and we're really proud of them. This is our high school. That group at the top, those are our seniors. I'm sure they were in pre-K at some time or another when I was principal at West. And this group down here, these are the math and science, the math team that I was talking about, who've been doing extremely well. And most of these students have been on the math team ever since they were at junior high. And our junior high campus, and the picture over here in the corner, these three guys are also going to state from junior high, and that's the first time that's happened in a long time. And again, I talked about how we always do well in chess. And I think it was, I don't know if it was 6th, 7th, and 8th grade that had us week this year. They were all first place teams, but we're always excited about that. And then down in the corner, we see some children in the lab over at junior high. South Elementary, where we are now, just lots of instruction going on. Lots of instruction, and at this time of the year, the main thing is STAR. Trying to get ready for STAR. So if you'll notice up here at the top, we do have a 1-to-1 device ratio for all of our students. They all have access to a Chromebook, because nowadays you have to be able to not only answer the correct answer, but you have to be able to write a response with it as well on using the Chromebook. So those are some things that are going on at South. And then we go to West. West is close to my heart because that's where it all begins. It all begins right there at West. That foundation has to be strong when they leave in order for them to be successful. Okay. Now, at this time, these are the things that we are looking to do. New construction of a pre-K through 5 elementary campus. The way that our schools are designed, you don't see that much before. Most elementaries go at least through 5th grade. Some even go through 6th. Safety and security. We know that ever since that happened at, what was that place? Uvalde. Security has been high on the list, and it can happen anywhere at any time. And a lot of our schools don't have vestibules. None of them do. So when you walk in the front door, you're in school. The vestibule would eliminate that. You would be in an isolated area until you could actually come into the school. And then if, with the removal of the current elementary schools here, would be an expanded parking lot, because if you've ever been here for a football game, you know that there's nowhere to park. Or for graduation, there's nowhere to park. So that would definitely be a plus. And then we would repurpose parts of the previous facilities upon completion of the new elementary. Okay, so from this point, now I'm going to turn the presentation over to Mr. Bowie.
How's everybody doing? My name is Bowie Franks. I'm with Gallagher Construction. We conducted a facilities assessment in March of last year, and that's where a lot of this data came from. Mrs. Lewis has a copy right here. It's a big old thick booklet this big. So we presented that information to a committee comprised of community members, stakeholders, business owners, parents, staff. So we gave them all this data and said, what do you see the future of Daingerfield looking like? What is on y'all's priorities? So they looked at the projects, the current state of the facilities. When I refer to a facility assessment, think of it like a home inspection for the entire district. We're looking at code compliance, we're looking at the age of the facilities, infrastructure, we're looking at educational adequacy, things like that. So everything under the sun, we're taking pictures of little cracks in the wall. That's why that booklet's so big. So a committee got together and they met for several months. I was kind of on the sidelines, just watching it all happen, helping where I could, being in the construction industry. And they met 5 times over several months, and they whittled down projects. They looked at their financial capacity, their bonding capacity. So if you're gonna go and try to buy a house, you get pre-approved for a certain amount, and you can't get approved for over that amount. Districts are the same way. So they looked at what can we afford, and then what can we pack into that is going to make the biggest impact on the district moving forward. So that was just a little backstory on how the district landed on those projects there. And what came out of that assessment and the conversations that the community and the committee had were that the elementary schools were in the most need of improvement. We went out and we blasted out a survey to the community, the committee. You might have seen it online, and it just had a long list of priorities. It broke it down from district to district. It broke it down to different aspects of each facility. And out of the top 10 priorities, the elementary schools ranked it at 9 out of those 10. So there was obviously a large push for that. Here are just some facts about the elementary schools here in Dangerfield. The building we're in currently was originally built in 1951 with 2,000 additions on, as you see, that library is a bit newer. So we also looked at, with that assessment, we looked at TEA standards now. So obviously things were different back in 1951. Instruction was different, classroom sizes were different, everything was different, right? Even 20 years ago, things were different. So we looked at the size of the classrooms compared to what they are now and what the TEA standard is. So if they were going to build a building today, how big would they build it? And what came out of that was that 62% of the classrooms in this building are undersized compared to current standards. That doesn't mean that TEA is coming and kicking in the door and slapping Dangerfield on the wrist. But it just puts into perspective what you're working with, what's the current condition of your facilities are. And at the time of the assessment last year, March 2025, the amount of kids that this building could hold, it was right at that number, 217. The capacity of this building is 217 students. The enrollment last year was 217 students. Typically, you don't want to get over 90% because then that starts creating those inefficiencies from an operation perspective. Not just the facility itself, but the teachers working in here and the kiddos learning, right? So it was at 100%, right at 100% here at South. West Elementary, 1957 with 1970s additions. There was 56% of undersized classrooms, and it was at 82% capacity at the time. So you're getting close to that 90% efficiency, is what they call it there. So these are just some highlights, just to put it in perspective. Current standards, kind of how we got here, and things of that nature.
What's the capacity for West?
West, it's, do you have the capacity studies on hand? It's more than South. Let's see here. I want to say like 250 maybe.
Because I know the new one is like 525 is the new capacity range.
Yes, so when the committee got together, you're looking at the size of your buildings that you have now. 311. So 311 is the capacity of West. That's just, if you're packing every single kid in there that you can, 311 is whatever it'll hold. So when the committee was looking at these things, they were trying to break down what's the most efficient, what's the most bang for our buck for the future. And ultimately, they landed on a new pre-K through 5 facility behind the current West campus. So I know this may be a little hard to see, but the district owns all that land back there, which is a great thing. You know, many districts statewide do not have that luxury. They're landlocked more times than not, and then everybody knows how expensive land is nowadays. So it would be behind West on that site. So the reason why it's a block and nothing more than that is because the way that school bonds work in the state of Texas is it's a backwards process, really. You have to look at projects, prioritize them, put budget numbers to those projects, specific projects, but those projects are not designed yet. So there's no hard bids, there's no competitive bids, because there's nothing to bid on, right? We're going off of everything that we can, but at the end of the day, there's no drawings, because architects, they charge for drawings, because that's their job. Unfortunately, a lot of money, but.
Process.
Yes, sir?
That's what's wrong with the process.
It's backwards, yes.
It's very backwards. So if you want something up front, you need to have drawings, you need to have study, what it's actually gonna cost. It's theoretical stuff, pulling out numbers out of the sky saying this is what it's gonna take.
So that's my next point. You're exactly right. So the trouble with that and why it is this way is architects charge for those drawings a hefty amount of money. So a district, they can go out and buy those drawings, but if they buy those drawings for a proposed new campus and the voters do not approve that bond, they've got a roll of very expensive drawings and nothing to do with it. And the way bond elections are set up with timing, by the time that they can go back out for another one, codes are going to change a little bit. So those expensive drawings have to be tweaked. So we do have to put budget numbers to them. You know, things aren't designed, but we've been in construction since 1968. So we're able to use real-time construction costs analysis. We look at current, historical, and we're able to project out future costs based on our work in the industry. So when we're looking at these budgets, it's not necessarily we're looking into a crystal ball and just throwing numbers at things. We're taking everything that we can and giving the best estimates possible because we serve as fiduciary of the district and we have to look out for the best interest. So that kind of gives you a picture of the process itself and why you just see a block there. Yes, ma'am?
And you were saying that you guys kind of built in what the projected, like, increase that might happen, say, next year. Labor's gonna go up and all these
Yes.
things are
So,
gonna go up, and that's the allotment.
With the backwardsness of the process, design is not quick, unfortunately. So you do all this planning, you decide on your projects, you put budget numbers to those things, you go to the voters, they say yes or no. If the voters say yes, then design starts because there's funding for the drawings. Those drawings, depending on the project, can take anywhere from 8 to 10 months. Now got the fire behind the architect and we're running behind him to push it along, right? But it can take anywhere from 8 to 10 months. I mean, it's a lot of work, not to discredit that. So that just takes you back to the planning. We were putting budget numbers to these things that's not going to be bid out until maybe Q1 of 2027, right? So it's that kind of puts it in perspective and kind of gives you a backstory on all this. All right.
Well, what if people vote for it, and then you go to the architect and y'all decide, we're gonna change this up, we're gonna change that up, so that we can have another project, are we allowed to do that?
No, so the state actually limits that. Get too close over here. The state limits that. It protects taxpayers. At the end of the day, it's taxpayer money, right? So there's a lot of codes and regulations that are in place to protect the taxpayers for that reason. Because if, say a bond got passed, and the district said, you know, this money I'm taking for elementary school and safety upgrades, new stadium. Somebody get put in prison.
We already done that.
Okay, so, there are laws in place that protect the taxpayers, and it's in the ballot language itself, so.
Which is on the website.
Yes, there's an example of ballot language, what you'll see when you go to the polls. I can't remember exactly what it said, but it keeps it to where the construction of the new pre-K through 5 elementary school and upgrades to safety and security, don't quote me on that. There is an example ballot provided by legal counsel on the district's website. But yes, to answer your question, there are laws in place to protect the taxpayer. Yes, sir.
Got a question. You talked about you don't have your drawings now, and you've been with the study several months with them? You've been with them through the process?
Yes, sir.
Have they made any road trips to different campuses in different towns? There's some other school districts around that got some new buildings. Have we looked at that? Have any interest in that?
They did show, so at the meetings, he did show an example of a couple of the newer facilities and said this may not be what your district needs, but this is an example of 2 different newer campuses that were built in the area and gave us the cost to say this is how much those cost then, so that we kind of knew where the numbers were coming from and an idea of what it could look like, but not necessarily what our town wanted it to be represented as. So like,
So no full tours, no sir, but there were images shown and costs shown with those, yes, but not full-blown tours, no sir. All right, before we get to tax stuff, are there any questions on the project specifically? All right, turn it over to Joey.
All right, thank you. Good evening, Joey Dawson. I work with Live Oak Public Finance and represent the district as their municipal advisor, all commonly known as financial advisor. So my goal tonight is just educate you as much as I possibly can so that you can, as Lewis says, make an informed decision. But I do want to kind of touch on, I completely understand the frustration about the process. Unfortunately, it's not our process that we made as a financial advisor or at Gallagher as a construction company. It is how things are done in the state of Texas. I will say, you know, we work with districts all across the state, representing over 160 districts in the state of Texas. We work with a lot of different architects, different construction companies, districts of all different sizes. And I would say we've seen both ways where the construction company maybe come in and they are an architect, they give a very low number to try to win the job. And then when they get the job, next thing you know, the community approves it, yes, it sounds great. And they get into the work, and now all of a sudden we don't have enough money to do what we plan to do. Gallagher does a very good job of looking at all the different, all the resources they have available to them for the projects they're working on, taking into account location. Obviously, building here in Danville is different than building in Austin or Houston, Texas. They take all of that into consideration, everything that's going on kind of in the market with the price of steel, price of all of these things, and they do a very good job of budgeting that aspect versus, like I said, we've seen it both ways. We've come in short. On the other hand, sometimes bids come in under budget, which obviously is a good thing, and that's one where that money can then, if there are additional projects that actually fit, can do that. But if it doesn't fit in there and it's not something that the community wants to talk about, that money can go right back to just paying off the bond.
Who determines if it fits?
What's that?
Who determines if it fits?
Well, legally, the valid language, like Louis said, if you, kind of stadium was mentioned, stadium has to be on a completely different proposition, so you can't do that. If transportation's not on there, then if that's not listed, you can't go out and buy a bus, you can't go out and buy a Suburban or anything if that's not on there.
Did they,
So there's all-
it off what they have listed on the website?
Sure.
The ballot language. So just say, this is a property tax increase, the issuance of the 45 million for the construction, renovation, improvement, acquisition, expansion, and equipment of school buildings in the district, including necessary sites and the purchase of new school buses, and levying the imposition of taxes sufficient to pay the principal and interest of on the bonds and the cost of any credit agreements. So it does have certain things in there saying improvements and security, stuff like that, so certain things would fall under that, but I know the pre-K through 5, the new school is the main thing that they're pushing for, and security vestibules. So anything extra, if we had extra, it would have to fall, like you said, in that criteria to get approved
Yes.
or considered.
So hearing that, it's no stadium, no performing arts center, no teacher housing, because all of those things have to be on separate propositions. But I'm not a construction guy, I'm a finance guy. I play around with numbers all day, but this is all, it all kind of comes together, it's all part of the job. So when you're looking at the tax impact, what's this gonna cost, that's always important, what's it gonna cost me? You know, we understand what it does for the district, what does it cost me in order for it to happen? Right now, the district has a little 5 cents, I believe, on the INS tax rate. We'll talk a little bit about INS and what that means. And this bond package, as of right now, values stay the same. If there are any increase in values, this could change and look even better. But for right now, it's proposed as a 36 cent tax increase. And 36 cents, when you look at that, how you calculate that, you take your assessed value, so not your market value, it's your taxable value. And this is for homesteads. If you have a homestead exemption, the homestead exemption was just increased, and it's increased drastically over the last few years. 2023, it went from 40,000 to 100,000. Here we are in 2025, it's gone from 100,000 to 140,000. So what you do is you take your assessed value, subtract that 140,000 exemption. What's left is your taxable value. So for easy one, obviously 140 takes it off. Your home is there. You're looking at there's nothing taxable. If you get down to a $200,000 home, and I'll show you the second number, that 156, that is the average home price in Dayton. So the average home, 156,000, take off 140, so what's being taxed is about 16,000. 16,000 divided by 100 times 0.36, and what you look at is going to increase the tax bill. Put monthly here because a lot of us escrow. I say that's because I'm not a community member here, but I'm a taxpayer myself, and that's going to increase my bill, increase that person's bill by about $4.87 a month. Okay. Now, excuse me, sir.
I'm just curious, it's like projected monthly increase. It's like buying insurance for pennies a day. Give me a yearly deal, what's it gonna cost me a year?
Okay, yes,
I would say all of our property values just went up. I'm assuming most people did. And I checked, my increase is over 60%.
your, what increase? Your,
That's how much more I'll pay in these taxes.
after it just went down in 25, when your homestead exemption went up from 100
Yeah.
to 140.
I went recently, and I had to figure what this will go up if this goes through.
We're not hiding any of it.
67%.
We're not hiding any of it. We're
No, I'm
showing you
just
different
telling you.
prices, different home values. and I'm just showing you what the average home value is, 300, and I'd be glad to pull anyone's information and
just school.
go through and calculate it.
36-cent increase, yeah.
So your tax bill went down in 25.
Yeah.
This would increase your tax rate by 36 cents, depending on the value of your home. Obviously, this number, it looks different. You know, so for the average one, about $5 a month, so it's probably less than $60 for the year. And all the other ones, I can pull it, I have it there, I can show you yearly increase, but it's basically that number, it's that number times 12. That's the annual increase. And I'll say this, also, the way the bonds would be structured, there's no plan to have the bond payments increase over the year. Therefore, it's structured to where the district doesn't need a raise in order to pay its bill in the next year, and the next year, and the next year. So this isn't designed to increase your tax rate by 36 cents this year, and then go to 38 the next year, and increase it. It's not designed to do that. It's designed to be able to pay the bill at that increase. If values were to increase, so as you're saying, as values increase, that means the district can generate more money on that same house. That means that gives the district the option to lower its tax rate and still be able to pay its bill. Which is why the tax rate now is much lower than it was the year before then. Any other questions on the homestead? Yes.
So I know there was a bond that's coming up to end before this one comes into effect. How does that, like, will that fall off and then this one goes on? Is it almost like a wash for some people? Or?
This 36 cent, good question. This 36 cent will be right on top of that. But that bond is going to disappear next year. So that bond will be paid off with
How much
basis on
was
the roll
that
rate.
bond? How many cents per, was that bond, did we say?
The original, I wasn't with the district, and I can look that up. I don't remember what it
I just
was.
wondered, because when we voted on it before, I swear it said so many cents per thousand.
Now, I mean, I can convert it. It's 3.6 if you want it by 1,000. But when you're talking about property taxes in the state of Texas, it's per 100 of value. And so that's what it was. And I can look up and give you what the tax was.
Because it will be nice when that rolls off, it'll be a little cushion.
this one start?
Well, like I said, this one is already, that's why you're seeing a huge reduction. There's two reasons. So in 2025, your tax bill is a lot lower than it was in 2024, because you had two things happen. The district lowered its tax rate by quite a bit, because that bond is getting close to the end, right? As well as your homestead exemption increase. So you kind of get a double bonus there. And now, the homestead exemption is staying the same. What the district is proposing here with this bond is that the tax rate increase. So you had two things that helped you. Now this one is asking for the tax rate. The state's taking care of the homestead exemption.
And that for 65 and over,
And we'll get to 65 and older, I can go talk about that now. You have 65 and older, homestead exemption, taxes are frozen, ceiling, you hear the word freeze sometimes, okay? That ceiling, so if you just turned 65, okay, this is setting your ceiling. Those who are more years over 65, and when they were frozen several years ago, there was an adjustment in 2023 where a lot of people saw their taxes cut very significantly. A lot of people went to zero. Now in 2025, they're going to adjust it again because of the increased homestead exemption. Over 60 actually got a double homestead exemption, a double increase. 2023, the general just went from 40 to 100. And then there was 10,000 on top of that for over 65. So now you have $110,000 homestead exemption. 2025, it's going from 100 to 140. So an extra 40,000. Plus, The over 65 itself exemption is going from 10,000 to 60,000. So now 40 plus 50, that's 90,000 extra in homestead exemption for over 65. So when they start making that adjustment to the ceiling, that's where you're seeing a significantly lower, if not no school tax bill, and I'm gonna say school tax. School tax, because I don't want anyone to say, that guy lied to me.
Yeah.
Schools, this homestead exemption for that over 65 homestead, only apply, it automatically applies to school districts. So if you have a homestead exemption, they pass this law, automatic, that increase, that applies to you. You're frozen. The whole freeze that applies to school district. Other entities do not have to have a ceiling. So I say that because some people say, well, no, my tax bill went up last year. If you go back and look, if you're over 65, you have a homestead, you go back and look, year after year after year before year, look at your school taxes only. If it went up, that was only because you weren't at your ceiling. It will not go above your ceiling. And if you look from 2022 to 2023, it went down. And you look at 24, 25, down again. And that's frozen. Doesn't matter what happens to the tax rate. So this tax, if that was increasing $1, if you're over 65, you're frozen. It's not going up. The only thing that's gonna go up, now, you can't go and add a whole nother house to it, and expect you're not gonna pay taxes. You add 3 rooms, then, okay, now you're taxed on those 3 rooms, and then you're frozen again. That portion is frozen. Okay, so, over 65, there is no impact to your school taxes. This is just looking at tax rates in around the area, seeing where Dangerfield is now. Obviously, 36 cents would take it to 109. And the thing about this, when you start trying to compare different districts, all different values, all different bond amounts, all different, you go to them, all different facilities, all these different things, but this is just kind of to show where you are. It's always, the question is, what will it cost me? How will it impact me? What's everyone else look like around me? So that's why we want to make sure you have that information so you see it and understand it. Now, tax rate. What you see is the total tax rate. You see Dangerfield Lone Star ISD tax rate. On the school side, that tax revenue comes to them and it's split. All right? It's an M&O, maintenance and operation, INS, interest and sinking. Maintenance and operation, that runs the school. That pays all the bills, pays the salaries, which is always the biggest expense in every district. That typically accounts for anywhere from 75 to 85% of the M&O bucket. Outside of that, it pays to keep the lights on, pays for student programs, anything. So that's your everyday budget. The state has formulas that determine how much the school can have on that side. And I say that because sometimes, not the case here, but sometimes districts see values, the values have gone up. New development has come in and that's brought it value. It doesn't matter because the state, if nothing else changes in terms of the number of students and average daily attendance, the type of students, the programs offered, nothing else changes, that income stays the same. And if you get to a point where you're collecting too much, more than what that formula's dictated, that money has to go back to the state. So that budget is very limited. And one thing that's not in that budget in terms of all the state formulas and what they're going to provide to the district and help the district with is facilities. Facilities is not in the formula. So there is no, hey, school, I think you need a new school. I think you need to upgrade your school. You need to increase your space, your capacity, something. So we're going to add on a little more. That's not the case. INS, on the other side, INS can't go and pay for the other things. So we can't raise this tax rate bring in this money and say we're gonna give teachers a raise out of INS. INS can only pay for bond payments, bond-related costs. And that's it. You also can't just increase this rate, collect that money and say I'm gonna go put it to a project. It can only, the bond proceeds go toward the project, the INS funds go towards making the payments on the bond. And I kind of just went through all of this already, but this is, state dictates that outside how big that bucket is. And then that bucket is filled by, all right, what's the taxable value in the district, tax rate, what's that bringing in? That pours it in, and if it's not full to where they say it should be, that's where you get state aid, the state comes and contributes their portion of it. Once it's full, it's full. And that tax rate is also set by the state. Your INS, like I said, that bucket pays for your bonds. 65 and older, went through this already. I'll talk without the slides too often. You've got questions, Titus, Morris, contact that. If I'll be here, if you've got questions for me, like I said, this stuff you can pull up your information, you online, you can look, go back and look last year, year before, year before, year before, year before. Take a look, if you don't, and if you're skeptical of what I'm saying, you're over 65, take a look at your school tax bill and see what was it last year, what was it the year before, what was it the year before. And you'll see. Now, like I said, other entities don't have to have a ceiling. Sometimes the counties do, sometimes, you know, I live in the Houston area, so it's mud district, hospital, you name it, county, and they're all separate, they're all different. That's it, unless there are any questions about taxes?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I went to the meeting the other day and sat there and did a little research, and it took about 30 minutes to figure out where this is really going. How did we fund schools for 100 years without putting it on the property owner? We did it for a long time. We
Without,
built thousands of schools in this country. How did we do that?
if you go back and look, bonds existed some years
I
ago,
understand it.
but the cost was a lot different.
I understand it, but
Yes, sir.
they went through and they financed everything without putting it on the property owner.
State of Texas, property owners are still paying, you still.
Well, all right, how about this for an idea? Since the property owners are the only ones getting nailed with this, why shouldn't we be the only ones paying?
As in, who else would vote? Businesses pay taxes.
Well, everybody, even renters, even everybody goes.
So I don't know if I'm misunderstanding, what's the question is?
He's saying that if we're paying for it as property owners, we should be the ones to decide. That's what he's saying.
That's what this bond election is, it's,
Right.
we're educating you, trying to give you information so you can go out and make that decision, not mine to make.
When was the last time a bond passed here?
2000, wasn't it?
No,
2000,
2011 was the last time they went out for a bond.
Right, so when did we build the?
Early 2000.
That wasn't with the bond.
That wasn't with the bond.
That wasn't with the bond.
Wasn't the library here,
Library,
the science lab?
I was gonna say, I know we did science labs.
But was that a bond?
Yep. it was.
I don't remember.
That's the one that's gonna roll off in 27, I think.
Oh, is that?
That's about 1.5.
But- I
2012, the last bond,
that was,
5.4 million,
did it pass?
that passed.
Now, what?
I think it went through in 2011, got voted down, and they revamped it, and it passed. That's what I was
2000 was a $10 million bond that passed. 2011 did not pass.
So,
2012 on here is could be incorrect.
Athletic stuff on
Yes,
I just have a quick question. Traditionally, this has been a property tax rich school district with Welsh Power Plant and steel plant paying 60% or, and lower. And when the steel plant shut down, that didn't reduce their property taxes until they've started tearing it down. Have y'all taken, when does the property tax of all that they're tearing down come out from the property evaluations? And have y'all taken that into account in your figures?
I know there was a big drop in those values recently. And so that has been taken into account. Yes.
And my concern, it's not that I don't want people to have nice things. It's whether we can afford to pay, because if this passes, at the amount that they're requesting, everything's gonna go up. All those people that rent houses, those are not homesteaded homes. Those people's taxes are really gonna go up, and that's gonna be passed on to the renters. Groceries, everything's gonna go up. And we're already economically challenged in Nashville. Why would groceries go up? Because their taxes are gonna go up. Groceries' taxes are gonna go up. Everybody's taxes are gonna go up.
That's a decision for everyone in this community.
I'm just saying, that side needs to be, this could slam our community, I'm gonna be honest. I want the kids to have nice things, and I want it to be nice. If I have to come and paint a building, whatever, but I don't, there's a lot of people, it will just almost, they might lose their home.
So I've got a question to kind of, with that, because that's, good questions there. But what happens if it doesn't pass and these schools just continue to deteriorate and they say, okay, now we really, really need it? We're back in that same point of now we have to pay another company to go out, do new assessments, new evaluations. It's going to cost more to build it now than it did 5 years ago. So looking at what the impact's going to be now for us as homeowners versus what's it going to be in 5 years when we really need it. And now our children are old enough to own a home, but they can't because they can't afford it.
That's right.
So I mean, it's kind of pros and cons of, is now a better time to do it or just wait until the buildings are falling apart? More than they are now.
Then I don't think that it's gonna get worse. And then I think that this past payment, this building is past payment.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir. When did you say the last bond passed?
My source is telling me 2012, but I don't know for sure. I know there was one in 2000.
It was 2001, it said South had the library. So that could have been one, and then I think the high school had some work done, football, facility-wise, with their athletic-wise, was probably 12.
And how much was that bond?
That was 5.4 million.
Okay, and it's and if I looked at your banks, if I looked at the statement right, you're paying $250,000 to service that debt per year. If I'm correct with what I read.
That was a special bond that's no longer on it. That's a QZAP, Qualified Zone Academy bond, actually had an interest subsidy. So that was a bond, that was a rollout from the government trying to kind of promote things. So the bond itself, the payments were more than that. The district was subsidized.
Okay.
So that's why you saw smaller payments
So the
there.
thing about it is, if they're having trouble, are they having problems paying that $250,000 a year?
No, that's why the tax rate is down. The money, that bond will be paid off next year. The bond with a balloon payment.
Okay, that was for 5 million. We're talking about 45 million they're asking for. So how many fold is that payment gonna be?
How many, what?
How many, we're looking at, 9 times the amount of $250,000 to service that debt.
Mhm.
Can the school district support that?
That's where the 36-cent increase would pay for it.
It's a longer term.
So what you're gonna do is you're gonna take our property, tax it, and if we can't pay at your home and you can't pay your bond off. The thing about it is they take our property as surety for your bond, is that correct?
It's not my bond, and
That's
no,
not
it wouldn't
your
take your property, the district would pay its bills.
If the district can't pay its bill, what happens? Does it come back upon the homeowner to pay that bill?
It's currently on the homeowner, all of it's on the
Yeah,
homeowner.
that's all I
Everything,
know.
all of this,
No
this
one
Texas
owns
school
the
system is
home.
on the homeowners with
No
the,
one-
with state help.
So what if you don't own a home, you don't contribute to the school funding, is that correct?
For your rent.
Yeah.
No, it's not that way.
If you pay taxes,
Incorrectly.
if you
They
live in
cannot take- They
the
cannot
boundaries.
take your property from you or lien your property because you're paying rent. Only can do that as a property owner.
Right, property owners paying taxes. And what they're saying is, you're contributing that because you're paying rent to the owner who's paying taxes.
And
So
why would
you
pay
personally
rent
are not
if
paying
You can
taxes.
be a property owner.
What was that?
Rent goes up every year because what they're paying on their mortgage is going up. So when I rented before I owned my home, every year it was a $50 increase because his taxes changed. So my.
Back to the original question, how did we build schools before the Department of Education got involved? How did we do that?
Well, if you're looking way back, we
No.
went out and cut down trees and.
No. A group of people got together and said, okay, now we need school. What are we gonna do? We bring in the builder, we bring in certain things, we figure out what it's gonna take. And one of the, no. One of the main ways to do it was we put 2 or 3 cents on fuel. We did a tax on fuel for 2 years or 3 years and we paid for it. They figured out a better way to do
Why
it.
would you want to service a debt?
No, they figured out a better way to do it. Instead of doing it that way, they put it right on the landowner.
Unfortunately, sir, it sounds like a conversation to kind of sounds like a little bit more of a political conversation for you to kind of get with someone that can change the state code or can change the way school funding is operated. I don't work for TEA, there's a lot of stuff.
I got you.
It's on camera, so I won't say. I don't work for TEA, so I'm not making the education code. I have to play within the rules of the education code. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
We're kind of in a unique situation here in Morris County, you're probably aware of it. We have 2 school districts in the county, both of them are consolidated. Even though the steel mill shut down, some of you may not realize, wait until after they had one oil well out there, until they shut down. They drilled 17 oil wells. Paul Cook gets $0 oil revenue. The Dangerfield School District gets 30 million, or the county gets $30 million in oil revenue from those oil wells. So we're gonna have to figure some of that in also. So the county's getting some of it, the school district's getting some of it too. So we can figure some of that in. Judge Reader probably well aware of that too. But it's gone up. They drilled 17 wells, it's gone up. It was what, 20 million last year, it's gone up to 30 million this year.
So included in taxable values
Yes.
of the district. This is, when we're talking about this 36 cents, that 36 cents is assessed on everything that has about taxable value within the boundaries of Dangerfield Lone Star. The gas station. So if there's any oil, mineral, it's all part of taxable value. They're paying taxes. They're paying taxes to the different entities. The county, they're paying to the school. So, and all of that is factored in. So this isn't 36 cents on residents only. This is 36 cents on everything taxable in this district.
Dangerfield School District picks up in Titus County also, all the way to College Road and back.
The boundaries of the
Boundary, that's-
district, the boundaries of the district, which does go with Morris and Titus.
Correct.
Yes, sir.
I would just like, I have a question, but first I'd like to comment. There's actually a candidate for state rep right there you could talk to afterwards if you want to talk about legislative policies. That guy right there. And the 2011 bond was $35 million, and the $5 million part was the part that was subsidized by the federal government through the stimulus program. That's the part that passed in 2012, where the district borrowed $5 million and had to pay back $5 million. The federal government basically paid close to $5 million in interest. So my question is actually a follow-up question to my previous question. The steel plant, when I checked 2 or 3 years ago, before they had started tearing it down, was about $20 million. And so they appear to be just tearing down the steel-making parts. They've left the warehouses and all of that so far. There was a group that came in with a contract to do the tearing down that's been being done. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, that it was cut from 20 to 10 million, and that's what has been accounted for. What happens, because the actual 1,000-acre plant was only valued at $1,000 an acre, so that's like $1 million. What happens if you have our low rate, and then we vote on this bond, and then you wipe, say, 10 million off the tax rolls? What would happen, legally or financially? Does the tax rate go up? Oh, and also one thing about rent houses, they pay higher property taxes because someone owns it. There's no 65 and older exemption, and there's no homestead exemption. But the question is about, let's say you wipe off 10 million from the steel plant. What happens?
You wipe off 10 million from the steel plant. One, if it happens this next year before we get 2026 values, that if this bond were to pass, we have certified values for the next year before issuing the bond. So any changes that happen there, we'll account for it. If there's information like this where we know that something's going to fall off, we can build this bond to account for that. Okay? If now 10 million won't really make a big difference in the payment on that. Where if you were talking something like, hey, we're gonna lose 200 million in value, or something where the district can no longer pay its bills at that tax rate, then yes, that would be a case where the district would have to increase the tax rate. Okay? And that's why we're very conservative when we're building the bonds initially, to make sure to try to reduce that risk so that's where we take all of that stuff into consideration, and be very conservative there when we're building it. That's why we're not building growth into the bond. So we're not saying, hey, your values have to grow up. It's more of just staying steady. If it's going to drop, we'll make sure that's accounted for.
About 10 years ago, Welsh Power Plant, or Welch, in Titus County was paying 40%, and U.S. Steel was paying 20%. The top two taxpayers are paying 60% with no votes. And it was 2-3 years ago when I checked, and U.S. Steel is still 20 million. And like I said, I don't know what they're cutting it down to and what might happen expectedly or unexpectedly or whatnot. So the tax rate could go up if I don't know how much it's already been reduced, and how much more it might be reduced. So
if the values were to drop drastically enough to where the district couldn't make it at that proposed tax rate, which is why everything says proposed projected, then yes, there could be an increase in the tax rate to cover that bill. But like I said, that 36 and how it's structured, there's a little cushion in there if it was just to decrease by 10 million.
So how you were saying things dropping off and coming on and all that, how they right now have the Cubbies that is at a pause. If that were to, say the bond passes and then the Cubbies opens and now you have, instead of just flat land, this business that's selling, gas and fuel and all this, and now they're taxable, is that gonna affect us? Like, will ours kind of go down just a smidge because now there's someone else paying or collecting taxes to pay as well?
As value goes up, the district will have two options. I'd say two, more than two, but two immediate options. One, keep the tax rate where it's at, bring in extra money and start to pay off the debt early, which is what a lot of us try to do in our personal lives. Hey, can I pay a little extra, save money on interest? And I pay it off early. That's one option. The other option is, hey, I don't need 41 cents to pay my bill. I only need 40 cents. I only need the revenue generated from 38 cents. The district have the option of lowering the tax rate to what's the minimum required just to make this payment. So if extra value comes in, that helps because that means if there's a new neighborhood that comes in, or if all your values go up, there's a new business that comes in, that's someone coming to help pay the bond for you. And if they're coming to help and pay, if your value is going up and you're paying a little more, that's more money coming into the state, coming to the district. They can then adjust the tax rate, or they can take the extra, say, let's pay it off and start generating state interest savings.
Who makes
So
that
paid off
decision?
sooner or lower payments throughout.
Mhm.
Who makes that decision?
Ma'am,
Who makes that decision?
that's a board decision.
The school board?
Yes.
Okay. I just was curious who made the decision, because you said the district, and so I didn't know if it was the school board or the finance, get out of the finance.
Now, the school board makes all those decisions.
Okay.
They said, oh, this, they will,
I was just curious.
anything, if the bond passes, the school board has to sign off on the bond, how it's being sold, the structure. They have to, the school board signs off on all of that. Yes, ma'am.
How long do you think you take on the pay to decide what you're going to off?
And it's like a mortgage, a 30-year mortgage, unless, like I said, extra value comes in and they start paying it off early. If values were to jump up next year, then we can see if we can restructure it in a 25-year. See what fits, as long, but still meet the promise to the community of 36 cents.
Aside from prices changing in projected project, if the bond does not pass, which I'm not saying it will, I'm not saying it won't, but if the bond did not pass, will they go back to the table, trim the fat, bring it back to us?
That is veteran.
There is no.
That is veteran on the bond that was always.
And that's a board decision.
It's a school with all of the requirements for ADA and all of the requirements, and then it's safety provisions for the schools that already exist. That's it. I mean, it's expensive to build schools nowadays when you factor in ADA requirements, you factor in certain locks and safety requirements now because of development. You have to have certain kinds of doors that are certain kinds of safety codes. They're different than this building. These buildings are not the same as the standards that we have to attain to for new projects.
But if you go inside, say the high school, and you change the vestibule, won't that make it where you have to do other things like,
If you're touching an existing issue, so if they were to come in and say, okay, we're just going to add a vestibule here, we're not gonna build new schools, we're just gonna add security vestibule. If they touch anything with asbestos, they have to remedy the whole thing. They can't just break up, like, okay, we're just gonna touch this 10 feet into the cafeteria. We have to fix everything we touch, it's a whole thing because it is school. But if they're taking it down, building brand new, it's gonna be all up to new codes. So
I'm
like,
talking about the high school and
Right.
the junior high where they can test.
so where they would probably put it on those is added to the exterior that's already there. So the main doors by the flagpole, it's already double doored. They would just have to probably add an office right there that you sidewalk into. My daughter, when she was in pre-K, there was school we went to out in Fort Worth, and they actually had a really nice security vestibule. You buzzed in, and there was 10 feet, so you couldn't just reach over and hold the door open or do anything like that. You stopped there, and then they buzzed you to your right into the office. They scanned your ID, they gave you the sticker to find out what you're there for, what your student is, and then they said, okay, here's where you're going. They had it all on file when you checked out, that kind of stuff. So like at the high school, they could easily accommodate that in that current vestibule. I would think just where that coffee station is, that is now your check-in station. And then the junior high, how it has the awning, they could easily convert the awning, just have another door going right into where the windows are for that. So it's easier to add on to
The
those.
reason I asked that is like, this has nothing to do with the school, but like in Longview, when there was a store, they were gonna just touch it up, and if they went and got the permits to do that, they had to go in, they had to tear down walls, make it all handicap accessible, do all kinds of things that had not been done because they were updating. And that's what I'm asking, would they have to do that at the high school and the junior high, just to add the vestibules?
Not with something as simple as a vestibule. You're essentially just throwing up glass walls, grown-up secure doors, you're running infrastructure, electricity to the doors so you can buzz in.
You can see what I'm saying. You
Absolutely, no,
can, you
yeah.
can really open up a can of worms.
Yes, and once you
By
start
doing
knocking
one thing.
down a bunch of existing walls and moving ceiling grids and mechanical systems, then there's a certain threshold, and it's kind of a gray area where you have to bring everything else up to code around it. But when you're just adding security vestibules and creating that safe space there, you don't have to bring everything else around it up.
Thank you for clearing that up. It was a serious question because I thought, well, we could really be in trouble.
Kind of, I guess, just go back and touch on some of the comments that were made. You know, there's certain things that it's state code, it's state law, there's things that we can't make any adjustments to that. The state has its funding formulas. Nowhere in that formula, I mean, now, the only time they can pay for facilities is district where they may pay for, they contribute a little bit. If the wealth per student is very low. And then they may kick in an existing debt allotment. Other than that, you are opening a brand new school, like an extra elementary, then maybe there's an allotment there that you can apply for. But if this is already here, there's no state funding, and there's nothing. The way it's done in Texas is it's the community, the taxpayers that pay it. The taxpayers have to fund it if they want it. And that's why it has to go to an election, because you get the choice to decide whether or not you want that or not.
I've got kind of a random Texas-related question. What if they're in the middle of building it and some natural disaster comes and wipes away all the progress? Does the state come in and say, we're going to give you some relief for that, so you didn't just waste half your bond on a brand new school building?
There's insurance. There's construction insurance. Everyone's got insurance. There would probably be some FEMA relief funds and stuff like that if a natural disaster came and wiped it down. But everybody has, and the thing about what we do is all of our trades have to be bonded and insured themselves. For that reason, if say the concrete guy's on the job and he up and leaves in the middle of pouring the slab on a 54,000 square foot elementary school, we're getting with his bonding company and we're making sure the district's getting money for that unpaid work, and we're paying the next guy to finish the job. Hopefully without much delays from him.
I got a question. How much is the state of Texas and government drain per student per year?
It's a great question. Six low, do you know what they're paying per student?
How much? No, shit. $13 is like $1,800, but now we're up to $62.
I don't know if it was 13, yeah. Basic law just went up to 62.
Wow. So the state of Texas says we're not gonna build your buildings, but we'll pay for your students.
Part of it.
Okay.
The average student is about 8,700.
Well, like, I don't know if you, Ron, I'm sure you probably know, like, this district, pretty much is all of this. I came from DFW, you had to pay, or had to get approved for it, because that's one of the things.
Good food, feeding them highly processed.
They've got nutritional figures they have to hold up to.
Okay, that's, you know.
But that was one of the things I was just caught off guard, shocked when I moved to this, this town. I was like, wait, I don't have to pay for my kids to have food here. I don't have to make lunches and stuff like that to prepare if I can afford it. Like, that's amazing. That's one of the things, and every year they go through the process to get re-approved for it. And that's just one of the things that I think is great about this district. It's a blessing.
I don't have a problem building a new schoolhouse. It's just, we should not put the burden on a landlord. There's ways to do it.
Well, it's landowners, business owners, they own it, right? The people that own the homes that are being rented, they own it as well.
No, you're not saying, It's called communism. By you putting all the burden on the landowner, it should be spread out over everybody, not just the landowners. No. Inflation's gone up 15% in the last 5 years. My property's doubled in the last 5 years. It's gone up 5-fold. That's bullshit.
Here's some important dates in regards to the election. Here's some critical dates. Last day to register to vote, April 2nd, 2026. That's coming up. Early voting starts April 20th, goes to the 28th. The state is shutting down polling locations on April 21st for San Jacinto Day, right?
Yeah.
So on the 21st, if you're planning on going to early voting that day, the polls will be shut down. Election day is May 2nd, 2026. This next slide. So if you scan the QR code on the left, it might work, might not work. This is on the district's website as well. It'll take you to the bond website. It breaks down the projects, it breaks down the tax information, ag impact, has frequently asked questions on there with answers as well. It's got everything you need on the website. Also on that website, and this link takes you right to it, but it's also on the website there. You type in your assessed home value, and it'll spit out per month what the projected increase is if the bond were to pass. So that chart earlier, obviously it was just generalities. You type in your assessed home value, it punches it in for you, and it'll tell you exactly what the projected increase is per month.
And that's not the 65 and over, that's just if you put in your home value, or is the home value?
Yes, it doesn't have anything for
Okay.
age and
Yeah.
it just, you type in your number and it spits out a number at you. Yes.
I have a question. So I did go to the tax calculator when you guys showed us that the last time, and we put in our home value, and it was more than what that slide was. Is that because I'm not taking off the 140? Do I need to take off the 140 first and put in my taxable?
First, you make sure it's not your tax, or, your assessed value. Because you have market value and assessed value.
Right.
And
So
with
the
home
thing that
value,
Forest County sends me, it says this is your taxable. So I take that, I subtract the 140, then I put that into the calculator?
our calculator should be
It
taken
should
to
be, and we can
140.
take a look at it, and we can get together after this and
Okay.
take a look at it.
And the other thing about so since the question came about the over 65, we discussed the ballot limit. 2019, the state required ballots to all say this is a property tax increase. Now, obviously, the plan here is to increase the tax rate. But when you go to the ballot, it's not going to have you put in your homestead exemption status or anything, or look at your age and say, well, you're over 65, so it's not, we're gonna delete that line. It's not gonna delete that line. It's gonna say that for every single person that goes in. Now, even if this were completely different, if the district had plans to lower the tax rate, it would still say, this is a property tax increase. So just know that if you're over 65, don't look at that and say, well, that means they were all wrong and this is a property tax increase. For your school taxes, it will not increase above your ceiling, above your frozen value. I think that's, is there anything else?
There were just a few questions that, we had from last time.
Let's see, so a question that kind of came up, why go out for bond rather than paying out of fund balance? Fund balance is hard to come by. And not many districts can accumulate enough fund balance. So that's when we say fund balance, we're talking M&O, maintenance and operation. State dictated, state formulas determine how many kids, here's your bucket size. You look at the cost of construction, school construction, you look at fund balance, those two don't really match. So that's where the bond comes from. If you're trying to save for that, you're chasing a moving target. Because the cost of construction may continue to go, even if it stays where it's at, it's gonna take forever to get to that point. And that's where going out for a bond, because now that's the side where you can take these proceeds and use it towards construction. We talked about this is a property tax increase. I was gonna say that. Talk about in the ballot language. How does the district determine which projects are included? I think Bowie and Ms. Lewis talked on this, that was determined, having a committee come in and the facility assessment done, looking through everything, looking at all the condition of all the buildings, looking at the capacity for a number of students, things like that, and taking into account ADA, and TA guidelines, and all these things, and that was the recommendation given to the board. The board then made that decision as far as the project is.
And I know one of the things where they said, reusing facilities on the, what's on the bond, what's coming up. When they were talking about that, because we did just have that one back in 2001 for the new library, that is part of this building that if it does pass, they will keep, because it is new, it's already been paid for, it just got paid off. They don't want to undo progress when it's still viable and can be utilized for the district. So they were saying they would either use that for maybe admin or some of the other high school classes and stuff that could be moved into that location. So that is something that, in aspect of recycling it, they're keeping it. And then like all the new security fencing and stuff we got up as well, that's not going to waste. Anything they can save, they're gonna reuse, so that we're not wasting funds we just invested into these facilities. Because I know that was a question that a few of us had in the earlier meetings. Some of that stuff people are looking at, well, you just did this, and you just did this, and you just did that, and it's all gone now. I'm not gonna vote for that because you're wasting my previous money. So that's also something that was, I think, part of the bond language. They were saying that falls under facilities, maintaining it, and stuff like that, I think.
Thank you. How can I be assured that the bond funds will be used as promised? There are certain limitations just based on the bond language. That's one part of the answer. One part of the answer is there are certain limitations based on bond language. So we read that earlier. Stadium, not on stadium, can't be. It's a different proposition. Performing arts center, you can't do it. It has to be a different proposition. Teacher housing has to be a different proposition. This bond is focused. Their transportation is on the internet, so there's money. There's buses as an option. As needed, but the main thing is what's in there is the construction of the new school and then the other projects. The rest of that is, there's a trust piece, a trust component. Community members came in and had meetings. Community members looked, at the facilities and talked. You just heard the comments made there. Community members came in and talked, and they decided this is what we want to do. This is what we need to do. This is where we want to see funds, our taxpayer dollars going towards. They made that decision, they brought that to the board, and the board moved forward with, yes, let's call a bond. With everything you just said, Mom recommended, these are our priority projects.
And that's what the attorneys put into the bond language.
That's in there.
Yes, on top of that, even after a bond is passed, the district has the option, we've talked about this with the district, of establishing a bond oversight committee. This is assuming if a bond passes. So for the sake of transparency and community interaction, say a bond passes, the district can establish a committee that can actually come together at different milestones during the design process and even the construction process, all the way up until after construction is done. And if there is funds left over, the community has input on that. Obviously, ultimately, the board makes the final decision, but if a committee is in place looking at the transparency of it all, going through milestones and being able to be engaged and involved, and actually see the process. That is another step, for the sake of transparency.
Yeah, and my recommendation there for any taxpayer that, you know, any community member that is concerned about that, if the bond were to pass, stay involved, continue to come to meetings, pay attention, because as progress happens, there will be updates. The district will give updates as to where we are, what are we doing, things like that. So that's why I say stay involved, because if all of a sudden you come and wait, we didn't talk about that, voice that opinion to the district. And basically at that point, you're holding the board accountable. But I know from working with the board, their plan is to do what the community asked them to do, and what they're now asking or proposing on this bond.
And then you also get the looks you want for your community representation. So you can't say, well, I don't want that all glass front building, we don't need that fancy, big giant sign, billboard, flashing things. You get what your community wants and what they'll be proud of, and what your kids can safely learn in, and your teachers are happy and proud to stay at. Because we don't want to lose faculty, and we don't want to lose students to other school districts that have bigger schools, you know, stuff like that. We're losing very good teachers, and a lot of these students are coming back, but after they graduate and they go off to these other programs, they're coming back to the community. And they're like, oh yeah, I grew up here. She was my teacher, and now I'm teaching right next to her. Like, I think that's awesome. And how many people here in the community have come back and stayed because they're so proud of Dangerfield. You know, and I think that's something that if you join a committee, you know, there's a lot of people here that are part of different committees and have been part of the meetings that all had input, asked the right questions, got, you know, answers that needed, just like here today with you guys, you know, getting the facts. A lot of things that we went over and narrowed down have all been addressed, and are all constantly, you know, checks and balances, and it's nice to see that. Even people that are like, I don't know if I want this, they get to voice that, they get to ask the questions, and they can also be part of it if it does pass and say, hey, I asked before about this, what are you guys doing to address that at this phase, so that we're not wasting, and they still get to be part of it, even if they weren't necessarily for it per se. They can still keep it on track and on balance, and get something the community can stay proud of. So I think that's a really good recommendation to find out, you know, the committees and stay with it.
All right, that's all I have.
Where the cookies at?
Where the
How's the cookies?
I'll hand it over.
Okay, I just want to say thank you again for coming out. We will get it posted when the next meeting will be. You'll be at West Elementary. And again, I hope that you leave tonight more informed than you were when you came. And if you have questions, please send them. You can send them to me, and I'll get them to the right people to make sure they're answered for you. Now, at this time, we were going to take a tour, if you're interested in touring this building. How many of you went to school here? Well, we know what it was like, because it hadn't changed a whole lot. But feel free, we have some students here who can be our tour guides tonight as they lead us down the halls to their classrooms. Again, thank you, and we will have the date for the next meeting posted and sent to you, so you know. Thanks.